All right, Shalom. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wahweh Kakudash. I want to say double honor to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone, who teach his word in truth and sincerity for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim across the four corners of the globe, preaching in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. It is the brother Gabar Yahweh from GMS Hawaii, coming to you with another lesson. And this lesson is going to be a quick lesson on some information that I found, proving the people that came over here to the Americas, the so-called Latin tribes, the so-called Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, prior to Cristobal Colon coming over here, are the northern kingdom of Israel dwelt in the Americas. And not only did they dwell in the Americas, how they knew about America is because our forefathers, primarily King Solomon, he sent the navy to the Americas to bring back certain goods, gold, ivory, um, peacocks, apes, all kinds of things that weren't found in what you call today the Middle East or the Levant at that particular time. All right, and so our people knew about this. So when they got shipped over, when Shalmaneser the fifth shipped them out of Israel, they came to the Americas to dwell, and that's in the scriptures. You know, most people, they believe that the Bible is a fictitious book, a mythology book, a book that takes different things from different periods in the earth. No, it's not. The Heavenly Father's word is true, okay? And it's documented. It's a living document, and it speaks about prophecies, and it speaks about the children of Israel and their plight here. So this is and the Israelite experience for that, for lack of a better term and word. This is Second Esdras 15:1. It says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people, the Lord's people are the Israelites, the words of prophecy." This is what we do when we go out. We speak things before they happen, as it is written out of the mouth of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. And the fact that the children of Israel dwelling over here together, all right, both tribes, that's prophecy, because the Lord's going to have a major deliverance for the children of Israel from over here. Real quick, this is Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 14. It says, "Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he hath driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their forefathers." Right. So this is going to be the greatest deliverance. That didn't happen in 1948. Where did most of those 1948ers come from? Eastern Europe. What land of the north did they come from? You see, they didn't. They came. They came from different parts of Europe and America. And in truth and reality, only to leave it up to them. Only the tribe of Judah or the Jewish people went over there. But where's the rest of the 12 tribes? Well, the Lord said He's gonna bring us from the land of the north, which is North America. Okay, that's North America, and from all the lands where He have driven them, because we are scattered amongst all people on the earth. But where is North America located? On the western hemisphere, and it's the furthest western hemisphere you can go till you turn right back to the east. You see. So this article right here off of Wikipedia entitled "Archaeological Interest in Pedra uh, da Gávea." Okay, this is a mountain or a mountain ridge in Rio de Janeiro, and on the side of the mountain is Hebrew inscriptions, man. Okay, let me see if I can find more information on this, exactly where this is at. Salakia, just to show you. Okay, right. So there's a mountain. This mountain, is this a mountain? Let's see. This mountain right here. On the side of this mountain, there's and you can see this from the sea, and You can see this from the sea. If if you're on a boat, you see that face that look the portion of the mountain that looks like a face, and on the side of it, it had a huge inscription in Paleo Hebrew, man. And that inscription in Paleo Hebrew could have been an indicator for Phoenician sailors, man. Okay, or Israelites to know that, hey, this is where we're in the right place, we're in the right direction. And I'm just extrapolating this because it's written on the side of the mountain. So it says Pedra da Gávea is a mountain in Tijuca Forest, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Differential weathering on the side of the rock has created what is described as a stylized human face, and weathered markings on another face of the rock have been described as an inscription. Some individuals, such as Bernardo de Azevedo Ramos, have advanced the position that the inscription is Phoenician, and we know that what was the language that ancient Phoenicians used? Hebrew. And what did they write in? Paleo Hebrew. It says origins and possibility proved a pre-Columbian contact, because the narrative is that nobody was dwelling on this land before the so-called white man came over here and so-called discovered it, or that they were the first, or that they'll use Leif Erikson, one of the Vikings, as the first to find North America. But our people been knew about this place for thousands of years, man. Why? Because King Solomon had a navy at a navy at Tarshish that would set out once every 3 years. They would bring back certain goods, and what you're gonna read about that in a second. Because, like I said, the narrative is that the so-called white man discovered everything, but meanwhile there were people living on this side of the land. Who were these people? Well, there's much evidence to show that the people that are living in North, Central, and South America, okay, are the children of Israel, namely of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. All right. So it says alternative theories proposed include that the rock was the site of a Viking colony, but were they not speaking? The Vikings weren't speaking Hebrew, or that it is connected with suspected UFO activity, because that's how Esau tries to write us out of history. He'll give it to the Vikings, which the Vikings were Israelites anyway. Jake's following a certain way of life. And then if that don't work, then UFOs. The same reason when you see those pyramids in Egypt, how vastly superior in tech and in building it was, because it's still standing to this very day. They can't, in their minds, they don't want to attribute that to the children of Israel who were slaves in Egypt for over 400 years. Okay, so they'll attribute it to UFO activity, but really, in reality, what you call UFOs, they're nothing more than the chariots of Israel, the Lord's people, the angels of the Lord, and they speak Hebrew. They speak this language right here. So it says in the 1930s, Brazilian archaeologist Bernardo de Azevedo de Silva Ramos studied the mountain, hoping that it could provide evidence for his belief that there existed a pre-Columbian civilization. Well, it already did. The people that were living on the land before Columbus and the rest of these so-called New World discoverers, okay, set sail. There were people living over here. They enslaved them. So that already shows you that it was pre-Columbian civilizations over here on the American continent, contemporary with the apogee of Phoenician and Greek expansion in the Mediterranean. Ramos traveled to Pedra da Gávea and wrote down the markings described by the IHGB, and then, with the aid of a rabbi in Manus, he claimed to have succeeded in deciphering the inscription. According to him, the inscription, when read from right to left, the direction of Phoenician writing and Israelite writing too, is it's right here. It's with this la abarka the ha ya ba a ra arya zaran I'm sorry, Zara'ah, Zara'ab, Zara, Zara'ab, Za'araba'an, or Ban A Yasha Yun Ha'ai Wa Salaki. My Hebrew is not the greatest. um, Rawa Zath. So it said this inscription, when translated into Latin alphabet, is said to read Tazar Phoenician Badazar Rab Jabal, which translates to Tyre, Phoenician Badazar, firstborn of Jeff Baal. And this going to link up with what we're about to read in 1 Kings chapter 10, because those were Phoenicians that um King Solomon had working for him, man. The inscription, so it says, this supposedly refers to the ruler of Phoenicia named Baal Ezer II, who ruled Tyre in the mid-9th century, 850 BC. Ramos subsequently published a 2-volume book entitled Transtigos de America Prehistoria in the attempt to document all the evidence of the Phoenician inscription in Brazil. And they don't even teach people this in Brazil. They don't teach the Israelites that are living here in Brazil today, calling themselves Brazilians, man. They don't teach you this in America. Various other people and organizations have attempted to rationalize and verify the inscription. At least one study was undertaken by the Latter-day Saints named Eru Petri to find the possible relation between the inscription and the Book of Mormon, which the Book of Mormon is a fallacy, is a falsehood, all right? But the fact that they said this right here, it says Bada Izar, firstborn of Jeff Baal, and that it was Phoenician, right? Check this out. This is First Kings chapter 10 and 10 and 18. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with the best gold. Salakia, Salakia, Salakia. What was it? First Kings 10 and because King Solomon, yeah, here it is right here, Salakia. King Solomon, he had the greatest kingdom ever known, bigger than any king that ever dwelt on this earth, man, including that dude in Africa. I always forget his name, man. Mansa Musa. King Solomon had the greatest kingdom. All right. It says, and let me go skip down to it. It says, this is second, First Kings 10 and 22. It says, for the king had at sea a navy. Matter of fact, I'll start at 21. And the king and all King Solomon drinking vessels were of gold, and all vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were silver. So King Solomon had all gold, everything for real, for real. It was nothing accounted in the days of Solomon. So he didn't use silver, he used gold. It says for the king, and the reason why, because he had plenty of it. It says verse 22, for the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with a navy of Hiram. Once every 3 years came a navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for the riches and wisdom. All right, now that where would they go for a year and a half? Okay, let me get a map of the world. Where in the world did it took them a year and a half to get through? And we're gonna prove it by using a world map. We're gonna use it. Yeah, let's use this map. I always use this map. This is so what they did. Try to get a bigger one. What they did was they would leave. Let's look at Tarshish first. Let's look and see what Tarshish is first. Salakia. So when we look at Tarshish, he had or Tarshish, Tharayash, or Tharayash. It says Tarshish, yellow jasper, javan, one of the men close to King Ahasuerus, a city in Phoenicia in a distant part of the Mediterranean Sea, to which the prophet Jonah was trying to flee. It says the site unknown, but perhaps Cyprus and Spain. So when we look at this world map, we know that this is the Mediterranean Sea. I wish it was bigger. But this is the Mediterranean Sea right here. So King Solomon was ruling from Israel, but yet he had a navy that would do what every 3 years, because it took a year and a half to get from here all the way to the Americas. So what they would do is they would go down they would go down into the around the Horn of Africa, come all the way around, because it was easier. It was hard to do it this way because all the storms and whatnot. So they would do is they would go down here, go around the Horn of Africa, go all the way down, and come back up around. And there's storms in this way too, okay? But they would eventually get here to the Americas, which we know Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay. They would come over here, and they would get all manners of precious items, and then they would bring it. It took a year and a half for them to come back. So that's why it says in 1 Kings 10, okay? 1 Kings 10 and 22, it says, for the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Okay, once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold, silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. Now, who was Hiram? Let's look and see who was Hiram. This is the same God that these so-called Masons venerate, Hiram Habith. Hiram says noble, Hiram or Hiram. Okay, it says the king of Tyre, who sent workmen and materials to Jerusalem to build both the palace for David and the temple of Solomon. Okay, now he says he was the king of Tyre, right? Check this out. When you go back to this article right here, it says right here, it says Bezalel, firstborn of Jethiel, which translate roughly to Tyre, all right, says Tyre Phoenicia. It says Bediezer, firstborn of Jephthah. You see? So I'm not sure which king this was, but we do know that they sent people over here. And that's where you get things like the Olmec heads, where Jake tried to attribute that to ourselves. Israelites try to say, oh, black people, listen, man, these were Phoenician people that used to come over here, man. And they had points of interest that they set up to remember where they were going. You see? All right. Just how we know that. So then you look up, let's go to Second Esdras, chapter 13, verse 41. And I'll read at 38. All right. And it says, and it shall, let's start at 39. It says, and whereas they saw us, they gathered. Nope. Let's start at 40. This is Second Esdras 13 and 40. It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea, the king whom Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away into captivity. He carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen over there in the east, and go forth into a further country where neither man dwelt, which is the Americas, which is this area right here. Man wasn't dwelling on this side of the earth like that. Don't you know that if the Greeks or the rest of the Romans or anybody else knew that this land existed, that they would have been traveling over here trying to get all kinds of riches? But it was set up that way so the Lord can bring his people over here. Let me keep reading. Let me go to the chapter. Read down. Verse 41. It says, but they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So the northern kingdom decided to say, look, we're going to go over here to the Americas. We're going to follow the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments because we're going to be away from the heathens. But they didn't keep these same laws, statutes, and commandments in their own land. And another proof to show the Israelites came to the Americas, stone. There's a stone in Los Lunas, Mexico, right here in Paleo Hebrew with the Ten Commandments on it. You see, this is more proof, and it got the name of the Lord in here too. It says Yahweh. This is Paleo Hebrew, or what you call Phoenician writings today. And there's been a few brothers that actually went out here and actually saw this stone in person. You see, and Esau couldn't take this stone out of there. It's too big. Okay, but they try to deface it. You see right here, they try to deface it. But Esau also sent some of his scholars out to break this stuff down, man. All right, showing you that, hey, these are the Israelites, man. For you haters of the Northern Kingdom, saying that Latinos and Native Americans, Seminole Indians, and so-called Hispanics, Mexicans aren't Israelites, you're lying. You lack understanding. You err and not knowing the truth. This is verse 42, 2nd Esdras 13 and 42. It says, and that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land, and they enter into the Euphrates. So this showing us giving us a depiction, directions, and where they went to. All right. It says, and they enter into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs of them and held, signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half. This is the reason why it took once every 3 years. A year and a half times 2 is what? 3 years. So it says once every 3 years they knew about it. And the reason why they knew about it is because, again, King Solomon sent a navy out there. And it says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half. And the same region is called Arsareth. It says, then dwelt they there until the latter times, now when they shall begin to come, because the southern kingdom had to end up coming over here. All right, the southern kingdom of Israel had to end up coming over. The so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Haitians who were dwelling in Israel and different parts of Africa and Europe, they had to come over here. We had to come over here. So when we read, what is it? I always get this mixed up, so just bear with me. I think it's Jeremiah 55 and 33. Oh, 50 and 33. Let me see. It might be Isaiah 55 and 33. Yep, I had it right. Jeremiah 50 and 33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Now, how is this possible if the northern kingdom went into captivity by way of Shalmaneser, and then they took that narrow passage through the Euphrates River? All right. In the map, they took that narrow passage through the Euphrates River. This is the Euphrates River, and this is Syria, and this is a narrow passage. So they didn't go up, they had to go down. And when they went down the Euphrates River, this is the Euphrates River, the Lord, what? He held the floods and showed signs. And so they came through these narrow passages, went through Mesopotamia, which is now modern day Iraq, came out into the Persian Gulf, And when they came out into the Persian Gulf, they went around through there, around the Horn of Africa. That makes sense. And it took a year and a half for this to happen. To go in, if you were coming back, it would take you a year and a half to come back. You see? You see? So it says, and they dwelt there until the latter time. And we're in the latter time. Now when they shall begin to come, which we're coming now. The tribes are coming together. You see? This is what's this? So it's just evidence showing that, the Israelites dwelt in the land where no man dwelt, which is the Americas. And we're here until what? To the end, to the end time. You see? And so, I was just looking at this. I ain't gonna make this too long, but I was just looking at it, and it's been on my spirit to do a lesson on it and just to show. And then you can see the Hebrew inscription right here. And this is Paleo Hebrew, man. Just to give you a further proof, which vocab says this the Paleo Hebrew isn't real. Then you got what's this dude, Nate? He says that we're speaking Ebonics. How so? How are we speaking Ebonics when this same language is found all the way over here in the western side of America of the world? How are we speaking? How's this Ebonics? Who makes this up? Nobody even talks in the Paleo Hebrew except for the holy elect and those scholars that know it, but they don't even talk in it. This stuff ain't made up. Ain't no Jake just I'm gonna go to the woods and write something on the stone. This had been there. This been here for millennia. The inscription on the side of this mountain was here for millennia. And guess what language is in? Is in the Hebrew, man. The same language of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the angels, and his people, man. Because no other nation on the earth is speaking in this language right here anymore. You see? And it says what? It says La Abarka. Let's see. Yeah, La Abarka. Reading from right to left, La Abarka. Tha Ha Yabar Haya Ba'arazal Ba'arayaz Yaz Ban. I'm sorry. Yeah, Ba'arazal Za Za Ba'a Bun, and then it just goes in. Like I said, my ancient Hebrew is really bad, but hey, guess what? That's the sound it makes, man. And we just letting you know. And it says scientific analysis because Barbaros and Porto allergy research was carried out during the early years of the reign of the Brazilian Emperor Pedro II. Houghton later postulated that the focus placed on the Pedra da Gávea was an attempt by the Brazilian Empire to nation build and establish the roots of ethno-cultural state anchored by the concept of an old world. Yeah, and they didn't want this to come out, and they didn't want this to be shown proof, but it's here. It's here. The proof is evident that the Israelites dwelt here in the Americas. And so with that, we'll see Shalom on to the next.